I think bullying can affect teens because it determines how they function in school, if they enjoy coming to school, if they're uncomfortable coming to school, and then that travels through to the rest of the community. They go home, they complain to their parents, they cry, they're depressed, they're lonely, they don't have friends, yada yada yada, and that kind of culture, if you allow for that in your school building, and I'm not saying that we do here, but if you allow for that in your school building, then that makes the community a bit uneasy about sending their kids to school, at a place that bullying is prevalent.
Good question. I believe bullying, it hurts them. It leaves a permanent scar in their lives. Bullying affects people, millions of families each year. It's a big problem in this world, and it's something that they have to get rid of.
If teenagers are bullied, it can affect their entire outlook on coming to school. It can affect the parents who are worrying about the kids. The community as a whole should be concerned about it. It can destroy a community if it's allowed to happen.
Well, I definitely think with teens, the psychological drama that goes on in high school at the time seems frivolous, and it seems as though you're just being kids and having a good time, which happens in my period 8 class all the time. However, I think later on down the road, if it's not happening in private, there are serious issues that unfortunately unravel due to being picked on or abused by other students. In regards to the community, we need to have a community where students feel safe. If students don't feel safe to be in this environment, then quite frankly, why would you want to come here?
Well, bullying is bad, and it breaks down the self-esteem of the population, because fear is you're like a terrorist inside your school because you're a bully. And yeah, it's bad.
Well, I think that if you're being bullied on a regular basis, it can lead to a lot of stress, it can lead to depression, it can lead to a lot of physical symptoms like stomach aches, like not wanting to go to school. And if it's really extreme, there have been cases where it's led to really extreme depression and even suicide.
I was bullied a lot when I was in elementary school, like 6th grade. I was, dorky looking, and I had a perm, and a lot of people were a lot cooler than I was. And I think it made me a stronger person. I would say that I was a bit of a bully in college, probably for the same reasons that other people bullied me. I don't know, whatever those reasons are, but I'm sure that it wasn't nice, and those people didn't feel too good about it. So I'm a tougher person because I was bullied, though, definitely.
Yeah, I used to bully my little brother, and older Asian kids in the school when I was a freshman or sophomore. They didn't like it, so they were affected.
I was very much bullied in middle school. I was not bullied in high school, but it made me, in the very beginning of high school, really shy and kind of almost wary to make friends in the beginning of high school. But I kind of grew out of it by sophomore year.
Just because I was popular in high school, that did not equal being a bully. I was never a bully. I was friends with every single person in my high school, believe it or not. And there were 700 in my senior class that we graduated with. We started with 1,000. We had over 3,000 students in our school. In regards to being bullied, I can't say that I could ever put my finger on being a specific time and where I was bullied. I would say possibly when I was in the 6th grade. All right, I remember this specific moment. When I was in the 6th grade, I was, I guess you would say, chubby. My mother liked to say full frame. So when I was in the 6th grade, I remember a boy pegging me with a tennis ball, and thought it was really funny. I guess that was a form of bullying, but I remember going home that night and crying and being upset by it. I mean, it hasn't affected me later in life, but obviously if I can pinpoint that moment, it did affect me at the time.
Well, when I was in 7th grade, I had these so-called friends and they took my stuff, and they used to just drop penises on absolutely everything I own. And I cried, and they bullied me. So now, well, I was small back then, I was a tiny kid. So now, I beat them up because I can, and so I'm a bully.
I do think bullying is a big problem in school, and I think the biggest problem about it is that nobody tells a teacher when they're being bullied. So it's very difficult for us to do much about it. You know, we see kids in our classroom, and if you're in like a class like mine, you know, we do a lot of work. So I don't have a lot of time to focus on who's picking on who or who's yelling at, you know, making fun of somebody. A lot of that happens outside of the classroom. I think if we were made more aware of bullying when it was occurring, we would be doing more to stop it.
You could say that. It's not like as bad as like they used to do, like in like people put like little kids in the garbage can and things like that. But you definitely see like emotional bullying, like sexual harassment, things like that of that nature, I believe.
People can do to help.
I think it's an ignored issue. I think there's a lot of like almost subliminal bullying that happens in this school that is sometimes ignored. So I do think it's an issue, and I think it's an ignored issue because there's a lot of what's the word that I'm looking for? Things that it can become a really big deal if it's actually paid attention to. What was the last part of the question?
And what do you think that people can do to help?
I think it needs to be reported more, and I think that when it is reported more, it needs to be taken very seriously. I think a lot of times the victims are victimized.
I think that's a very broad and general question. Obviously, anytime that you put a large amount of student population together, there's going to be some form of bullying. There used to be Freshman Fridays here. Hopefully that has stopped. The school has tried very hard to have that stopped. But I mean, if you take it from elementary schools, they're picking on each other to get the toys. That's a form of bullying. If you take it to the middle schools, everybody's talking about who's wearing what, who doesn't have this. And then you get to high school and there's things such as Freshman Fridays and picking on the freshmen. And then you go to college and there's hazing in fraternities. So unfortunately, I think that bullying in some form takes place everywhere, despite the fact that school authorities and officials try to stop it.